Hello and welcome to the Adventuring Academy. My name is Brennan Lee Mulligan. This is my guest, Lou Wilson.
Hello.
Welcome to our little podcast, our home away from home, where we talk about all things tabletop RPG related that have to do with running tabletop games for you and your friends, be it D&D, White Wolf, what have you. We talk about how to play and run this awesome game here on this podcast. My guest, Lou Wilson, today you will recognize from Dimension 20,
Yes.
both Fantasy High and the upcoming second season, which has not been announced yet.
Shh, don't tell them.
Don't tell them. Lou is my guest today because I've been playing D&D with Lou for a long time.
Yeah.
We have a 3.5 campaign that's been going on for over
a year now, which is it's very special.
Very, very special. And Lou also has just started running his first game of D&D. Lou, how did that experience go for you?
It was a learning one, but an enjoyable one. My world is called Sazura. It's like a desert kind of landscape with all your I wanted to just smash all the most cinematic, like Sahara, shifting sands with the dry creek beds of westerns, with the high arid deserts of some of your favorite, just also frontiersman kind of stuff. I wanted to smash them all together in one beautiful world.
It's a very cool, Arabian Nights inspired place that I was super psyched when you started talking to me about it, because I'm obviously a big homebrew campaign world guy. So for those that are listening, DMs work in different ways. People that run these games work in different ways. Sometimes with games like White Wolf or Vampire the Masquerade, the game is sort of impossible to divorce from the setting that comes with the game. Like, this game takes place on Earth. These are the types of vampires you can be. D&D does a really good job of separating its campaign worlds from the rules. So the rules are kind of presented assuming hey, this is how elves and orcs work, kind of in whatever world you find them, right? So as a dungeon master, you have this kind of choice to make of, do I buy a campaign setting? Do I go out and get Ravnica? Do I go out and get Forgotten Realms, right? Or do I make up my own? Was there any question in your mind about whether you wanted to start with a pre-made campaign setting?
Well, there definitely was. It definitely it crossed my mind. I was because I had been right before I met you and we started doing our campaign together. I had been it had been hard for me to find a DM in Los Angeles, and so I had been if I can't find one, I'll learn it. And I was and you can too, and that's why you're here listening or watching this podcast,
please.
But I was so I had been on Amazon being okay, do I get these, do I get the books, and then do I get the starter set, and do I just run whatever the starter set is? But then I met you, and I don't know, what can I say? I'm very much I consider you in many ways to be a DM or GM sensei to me, and there's definitely been something about watching you run campaigns of your own creation that I think is a power that I wanted. I think there's just so much more. I think there is as an improviser, as someone who's very good at thinking on their feet, who likes to prepare, but then is also very comfortable in kind of the wilds of just we're going to a place that I hadn't expected. It was exciting. I don't know. There's a thrill there of being okay, great. If we go there, then we'll just kind of I don't know. Well, I didn't want to have to be going to a pamphlet being okay, so they want to go here, great. And what's there? Okay, I think it's wait, do you guys want to go to the left side or the right side? The left side. Okay, so on the left side, I don't know, the freedom and comfort to just kind of be the ownership, I think, was something that excited me, especially with running this campaign in South Sudan?
I think that's so important. And that's very well put to that idea of like ownership, right? Because I know that the reason a lot of people rely on modules, and again, you can split the difference. You can get a campaign setting. Like you can go out and get, like my favorite of all time was Planescape, which was back in 2nd edition D&D a million years ago.
Way back
a million years ago. Planescape's like my favorite setting of all time, where I felt really excited about Planescape because it was this awesome setting that was so creative and wild, but it allowed me and my brother and other people that were DMing to still make our own adventures, which was very, very fun and cool. But there's even a level beyond that where you can not only get a campaign setting, but also like run modules, like run design adventures. I totally get the appeal of running a module. Having all that stuff, especially if you're, like, for the record, Lude is jumping into DMing as a like veteran improviser at the UCB theater. So like, and having played a lot before and has a lot of complementary skills that make this a smaller leap than it is for some people who maybe haven't performed before, haven't done something creative before, and want to start DMing. Out of the box, a module is a really tempting offer. I will tell one little story about why the first time I became very creased and swore off modules altogether.
Oh, gotta get this out in the first episode.
And this is why, and again, modules are great. Check them out if you want to buy a pre-made adventure, because that's going to make you feel more confident. Awesome. So when I was like 12 years old, right, I was sort of on the basis of like really designing my first own campaign world. I already sort of had, but this was like me testing the waters of like, ooh, maybe to be a real D&D nerd, I should buy a module and run one. So I got Axe of the Dwarvish Lords. Ooh. This is like a 220-page adventure. It's thick, like source book, not hardcover, still paperback, but like a thick adventure module for like 12th level characters. And it's this huge fucking dungeon that's like thick and hefty. And I like hand traced all the maps and did all this stuff.
Tracing paper out?
I broke the tracing paper out.
My man.
Memorized these stat blocks, which by the way, I don't know if you guys know this. Anyone who plays 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, the bullets you dodged at not playing 2nd edition, you don't have to know what THAC0 is. It used to be this thing that your attack roll was based on your THAC0, which was a number called to hit armor class 0.
That's what THAC0 stands for.
So you didn't have a bonus to an attack roll. You had a number that if you rolled it or higher meant you hit an armor class of 0. And if the person's AC was different than 0, you had to do the math in your head and figure out whether you were adding or subtracting. So the numbers were weird inverse mirrors of each other. It was bad. It was bad.
As someone who I haven't been playing, Brennan makes me sound like I do play a lot of D&D now, but I wasn't playing so long ago. That and you often talk about how easy 5e is and how easy it is to jump into. That's like, I feel like the first tidbit you've ever given me though as to why the paths you walked so that we could be where we are today.
Well, like all credit to Mike Merles. Look, like the renaissance we're in with D&D right now is credited due to, number one, extremely popular, awesome things that are D&D actual play content, like Critical Role, like the Adventure Zone, like our boy Murph's and Emily and
not another D&D podcast.
Got to shout it out. But that's a great example. Is that Murph is someone that I was his first DM like 2.5, 3 years ago, something like that. I think literally like between 2 and 3 years ago. And Murph is a great fucking DM, one of the most proficient DMs out there. He's got a fucking podcast that's like huge. So if you're feeling intimidated, like, sometimes I'll see people be like, well, of course that person's a great DM. They've been DMing for 20 years. You don't need to DM for 20 years to be a great DM. You can start and be a great DM right away if you make the focus of what you're doing your players' enjoyment at the table. In any case.
Can we go back to THAC0 though? I am very interested in why you're creased.
So here's why I got so creased. I get Axe of the Dwarvish Lords, right? Huge adventure, big-ass dungeon, evil wizard. I'm like, cool. This is a published D&D adventure. Let's do it. I get my 4 players at the table. They all make a bunch of dwarven PCs.
Oh, hell yes.
Very exciting. My brother makes this like dwarven paladin lady who's like a very cool, avenging dwarven paladin. The setting dictates that the first event these characters go to is in a dwarven settlement where a marriage is going underway. And as a little bit of like flavor, it's an older dwarven guild elder marrying this younger dwarven like princess, and the princess is like not super hyped about the wedding.
Okay.
And it's like, but then the wedding is attacked by the evil wizard Bombeldo, or whatever the guy's fucking name is. And what ends up happening is I start to narrate this wedding, literally just to set the scene of the PCs doing like a little bit of role playing before the adventure starts. Well, check it out. I narrate, someone rolls some like, insight check or whatever it was in second edition back then, rolls some, wisdom-based check about the dwarven princess. I go, yeah, she's not super hyped about the wedding. Guess what my PCs do? They fucking clock the groom over the back of the head, kidnap the princess, and they're like, we're not going to watch you get married to this person you don't like.
Wow.
And so I go, are you sure you don't want to, are you sure you don't want to stay? And they go, no, we're kidnapping the bride and we're getting her the fuck out of here. And so the adventure becomes the dwarven militia chasing down these kidnappers. And of course, I'm like, they're immediately having the most fun in the world. They've kidnapped this princess. And then I just start role-playing this princess as being like, yeah, thank you. This was a bad situation to be in. So in other words, weeks and weeks and weeks of my life, and 95% of this book are gone in the first...
It wasted a ton of tracing paper.
God, the amount of tracing paper. I could have done so many Pokemon, so many Digimon.
So many Pokemon, dude. You could have used those for Shrinky Dinks. You could have put it to good use. Instead, it all became nothing. Bombeldo.
Bombeldo showed up to literally an empty... He's like, I have come to kidnap a princess. Guess what, dog? She's gone. She's fully gone. Help us find her.
Oh, that would, just reverse again there. Bombeldo, nobody is coming after Bombeldo. Bombeldo is coming after you.
I have come to snatch your princess. Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, my God. The groom's unconscious. Yeah, I guess let's get on this. I have a whole dungeon full of monsters. Well, can these monsters chase dwarves in a stolen wagon? No. It's a bunch of rust monsters and Otayugs underneath this bullshit? Yeah, well, fuck you. We can't use your help.
Okay.
It was so that was a very it feels like a villainous origin story of like that one time I got burned that badly completely ruined modules for me and made me go, I want to homebrew my own settings as much as possible, with exception, like some settings are so fucking dope that like Planescape rules. It's a very cool setting. But I want to homebrew my own settings, and I specifically want to design my own adventures because you cannot escape the degree to which the game is about the PCs. Yeah. I don't even really like to hear that dungeon masters are storytellers. They're not, because the story has to be predicated on the dreams and hopes and desires and actions of the player characters, right? So if their choices are not what's driving the story forward, that's a problem. Now, obviously, their choices occur in a world you've created, and you need to create villains and plot hooks and stuff like that for them to react to. But the idea that you can really have this adventure and not make it perfectly like a glove fit to the characters you've made is a little crazy. No one will ever watch a movie where the plot is totally divorced from the backstory of the main characters. But in a weird way, that's kind of what modules do if you're not careful. Yeah. Is they go like, oh yeah, there's some heroes, whoever they are, who gives a fuck. The main thing is they go into this dungeon and do these things. Yeah. I think that even if you're using a module, you should go through and realign stuff to tie into your PC's backstory, or to look at your PCs and say, their motivations need to tie into the core themes and plot of whatever this adventure is. Yeah.
Because all it takes is one moment of them like moving from their core or the core of their character instead of along the lines that were carefully drawn for them that, like, I don't know, to unseat everything.
100%. Well, you know, like the thing, and I'll say this because I don't think this is a spoiler for season 1 of Fantasy High, the plot with the missing girls at Eggfort was something I created. The setting was created beforehand. I created the setting so that these 6 guys could make your characters. But the whole plot with the missing girls at Eggfort was created for Murph's character.
Wow. I've never heard this before.
Really?
You've never told me that there. I had no idea. You tell me nobody was trapped in any. There were crystals? No girls trapped in any crystals before Rizgek was created.
No, that was created because if one of your characters at the table says, "I want to play a teen sleuth," and you don't give them a mystery, you're an asshole.
Wow.
Like if you're like, "Cool, you're a detective. I didn't plan for a mystery in my setting, so you can jerk off, I guess. You can like do whatever you want." Like you have to put, as a DM, I think you have to put things into the setting that allow people to realize the fullness of the character arc that they envision for themselves. That doesn't mean that you're not also involving your story themes you want to include. Yeah. Like you're one of several players at the table. You should be having a fun time as well. Yeah. But your job is, I think, creating these moments where people get to go, oh, my character became the person I wanted them to be in this moment. Yeah. And if you don't plan that, if you don't really see that stuff in, there's, what are the odds that it's going to happen organically, especially with something like a mystery? I think that's really necessary.
That's beautiful. It is. I know, but it is. It's like I think about like the first, like before I sounds it out in this like campaign that I'm running, I'd like taken other steps in other things to like try what it's like to be like leading a role playing like thing, and like very much I was so. Like they told me their characters and I was like, cool. Like I did a much more like surfacey level of like, cool, want to use a musician? Great. We'll start with you like at a concert. And like that's like, I did it. You got your what you wanted. We were at a concert and you were playing because you're a musician. I had like, that is a level of like giving that I think is, now as a player and now thinking about that is so satisfying and gives that level of engagement that I think can sometimes be a hard thing to like stir up as the DM, like at the table, especially in like the technological era that we live in, where people are like want to check Facebook, like to grip them and give them those things so that they feel so a part of what's happening. Like that's very sweet and impressive.
It's rad though, but like even something as small as you're saying of like, oh, make sure that the musician's at a concert playing music. It really is that thing of like when people play D&D, they want like escapism. They want the ability to be somebody else. And often there's an experience they're looking for. And sometimes they don't even ask for it explicitly. Yeah. And it's your job to kind of empathically go, okay, how do I give, like, what is it that you're looking for? And weirdly, I think sometimes also to give people the character arc that they desperately want, to let them be that person, sometimes you actually have to not give them what they are asking for or want. Like I think about Fabian's arc in season 1, where you didn't get on the team that first time.
Very surprising. I'll say I haven't been out there about talking about like things I was thinking, but you and I have talked about it a lot, but when you said hit the showers the first time in episode 1, I truly thought I was on the team and that we were just kind of, you were like, let's move along. Like I was like, I did it. I was very caught off guard by the fact that you did not let me be on the Blood Rush team. I thought I had earned, I thought there was rolling that, like I think I rolled a nat 1 and then like an 18. I like was convinced both in the meta Lou Wilson and the character Fabian Seacaster that I was like, I'm on, like I killed that play, I win.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like Fabian, the character, and also to some degree probably Lou Wilson, the player, wants Fabian to get on the Blood Rush team as soon as possible. Badly.
Why did I put my character in a varsity jacket if I didn't assume that these things were going to work out a certain way?
Right. And what's horrible as a DM is it's like you're doing a very weird, twisted kind of wish fulfillment, because you actually can't give people, because people want the experience of being their character archetype fully realized. So if you go and just do wish fulfillment, just do very simple basic wish fulfillment and say, cool, Lou wants his character to be on the Blood Rush team, he's on the Blood Rush team. Great, you got your wish. You did it. Hooray, you did it.
Okay, it would have been kind of cool. There would have been some games where I did some tackles and some flips and things, all right?
Sure.
But you're right. I mean...
But what I'm saying is that it's a weird thing because it's so much more meaningful. Like we just had the Coach Daybreak battle.
Same thing, yes. Stabbing Coach Daybreak over and over again was so much more.
I have never laughed harder in my life than when you fucking put Riz in the thing and went, "What's good? Woo!"
That was, I mean, it was incredible. Like you're, I mean, you're right. Okay, you're right. It was way cooler to lose and then win than to just win from episode 1.
But it's really hard. I mean, it's because as a DM, you're sitting there and it feels a little bit manipulative because you're looking at players and they're like, "I want this," and you have to go like, "Okay, not yet." Mm-hmm. And watch your real life friends at the table get frustrated, and you have to just in your head go like, well, I know it's going to be more meaningful later, but for the time being, I just watched my friend get really frustrated. But it's about knowing like, oh, what's actually the best thing? What's going to really make the best high? And I think a lot of that you can track by going, what's the fullness of being this character? Like, if someone is like some revenge-driven cowboy, don't start session 1 where they kill their enemy. But also, like, let them be a badass. And you have to find that balance, but go like, no, their enemy has to be smarter and more powerful than them and evade them for a long time in order for them to fully realize this journey. They're not looking for a quick hit. They want the full self-actualization.
Oh, baby, they want the good stuff.
The good
They
stuff.
want that stuff you gotta pay for, you know? Not a cheap quick hit, you know? The stuff that lasts a while.
It lasts a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up these questions submitted from people on our Discord. So for those of you listening to this episode, you might be listening to it for free. If you want to watch the video of it, you got to head over to dropout.tv where you can get the full video and watch me and Lou's faces.
You know, because you got to get the whole picture. The smile on these two boys' faces as they talk about one of their favorite hobbies.
And you got to see Alphonse.
You got to see Alphonse.
Alphonse here in the back.
We named him right now in this moment. And for however many episodes this goes, he will always be Alphonse.
Alphonse. Cool. So questions are submitted on our Discord server, which you get for signing up for Dropout.tv. You can go hang out on a Discord server, hang out with the cast and different crew members, and it's actually a fun time. It's a really cool community of people in there. This first question comes from Marlisle, and in parentheses is Colin. One D&D question I've never really had answered in a satisfying way is about making characters compelling. How do you manage to have characters who can be scary or unnerving when the heroes can also make them projectile vomit and laugh uncontrollably on a whim? This is a very cool question. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.
I actually think this applies to PCs and NPCs alike. Lou, you've played a couple different PCs now. You've played one we can't talk about in season 2.
Yes.
But you've also played the on-screen Fabian, but also you've played Kondrak, the Barbarian, in our home game.
Yes.
And then you also have played NPCs for the first time in your foray into DMing.
Yes.
For you, is there a difference between making a PC and an NPC compelling? What are the rules?
I mean, I think for both, I think it's just about wholeness, right? I think it becomes like you get into a situation like that when you're like, this person is the evil guy, and then the people are like, we make him silly, and you're like, oh, okay, well, what do bad guys do? Like, then it just turns into, I don't know, a Disney movie where like the evil guy's going like, no, please stop. This like is ruining the facade that I've been trying to hold up. But I think that, you know, in creating the characters for like my campaign, it was about like who these like the major NPCs that I thought they were gonna like come across, and then kind of shaping the whole them, what they're like, thinking about private life, thinking about the person that they want to be seen as. I don't know. This is weird to say out loud. I have never like really expressed, but it was like how do they want to be seen? How are they really? What do they want from like thinking about if my PCs come across them, what are they going to want from them, and how will they handle like those people, like those kinds of people? And I think when you give that like kind of wholeness to it, it like doesn't like they are inherently going to be compelling because we're watching them experience a range of emotions rather than the opposite of what they are.
Yeah. I think that's perfectly said. And that, honestly, something that you guys can do if you're listening to this is I would recommend, weirdly, people I think really emphasize writing as a dungeon master. A lot of running a game is about acting, and I think improv training, well, something that improvisers have up their sleeve when they start DMing is the understanding of how to make somebody whole quickly.
Yes.
And how to give somebody a core quickly. Basrar in season 1 of Fantasy High, that's a cursed gene who can only grant ice cream wishes, and he runs an ice cream place.
Yeah.
And when you understand that deep sadness, and he has this role he can't fulfill, everything he does starts to pile up on top of that and make sense. He's got to grant these wishes because he's this genie, but he can only grant ice cream wishes. Yeah. And when you're designing your NPCs, coming from the heart is huge, which is sort of what you're saying, this idea of like wholeness, how do they present, what they want, and all those things aren't necessarily a mechanical bullet list for every NPC. Yeah. Understanding factoids about your NPC is not what you're going for. You're actually trying to feel them on an intuitive, emotional level.
Yeah, I'm not saying write paragraphs about me. The reason they feel this way is because at the age of 7, they left the village. Like, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, it is just a bullet. It's just something that I can reference. Because I think, like, and I think to your credit, I think, like, thinking about Coach Daybreak and thinking about this fight where we're making this man vomit and shit himself after he's like, after he's like half killed a lot of us. I think there is so much in the acting of it where it's like your portrayal of him is a person who is trying to hold on to that like part of himself while shitting and vomiting, which I think is why it still has some of that. Why it doesn't just turn into a cartoon, because of you holding on to like. Him still holding on to. You haven't given up. You're not just like he's just vomiting and shitting. You're still like he's still trying to be intimidating while vomiting and shitting. And seeing that, I think, is very compelling.
I will say there are almost 2 questions in this question, and one of them is, I think, that rich kind of like what makes a character compelling, which I do want to address. There's another one here that just so that we make sure that there's like really practical advice here. Here's like the most nuts and bolts advice I can give. That especially when you're starting to introduce villains into a campaign, there are conventions from movies and television shows that will not follow into tabletop role-playing games. If you have your villain try to do a monologue and there is nothing stopping the PCs from just starting to clown on them, the PCs will start to clown. That's from movies. You can't do that. So if you want your villain to exposit a piece of necessary information, or you want them to seem really threatening or scary in some way, realize you're not in a book or a movie. This is an interactive game. And also, if you have made your PCs really hate someone and they feel that they have the ability to enact violence on them, holy shit, they are going to go buck wild. There is nothing more vicious than a group of PCs finally getting their hands on a villain.
All it takes is one barbarian in the group who's like, this makes me mad, I rage, and I charge at them. Like, there's no... As a person who one of the character Kondrak in another campaign that Brennan and I have off screen is a barbarian, and 100% if you tried to speak on something like my character, me and that character, I'm not going to respect you enough as a DM to be like, he's trying to do something, let him have. I'm gonna be like, no, Brennan, I charge.
Well, let's talk about the first time that happened. We were in a fight. So Lou plays this character Kondrak, he's Rushkavi. He's from a species of half-orcs. They're like tribes of these northern, like their ancestry is human and orcish. And he goes to the southern city. He's watching this show. There's a bunch of these Kildarian soldiers in the crowd. Kondrak walks up to one of them, and what did you say? You're like,
they were arresting a person of interest for another PC that I had like briefly interacted with, and I think I walked up to one of the guards, and I just was like, "Why are you arresting him?"
And the guard turned to you and said, like, none of your business, Rushkavi scum.
Yes, and I immediately buried a hand axe in the back of his head.
Just chopped him in the fucking head. And that's that character.
Yeah.
That's Lou contributing to the story. That's
my part.
That's his part. So as a DM, do not get swept away in your own story.
Yeah.
If your villain presents a credible threat or even a fun opportunity for violence to your PCs, they're gonna take it.
Just give me one fun opportunity for violence and how I'll capitalize.
It's really true, but there's a wild thing there where, so that being said, though, you do sometimes need your villains to do a threatening thing.
Mm-hmm.
You need them to do some scary shit sometime. So what you have to do is think carefully as a dungeon master and say, why aren't my PCs unloading right now?
Yeah.
Does the villain have some leverage over them?
Mm-hmm.
Have the PCs just gotten their asses kicked? That's a great time to have a villain exposit some shit and do a monologue if they are legitimately defeated and captured. Yeah. Or is there a reason why the PCs aren't interacting? Sometimes I think it's also fun to have a villain interact if the PCs don't know they're villains yet, or there's some reason for them to hold off. They're at some fucking banquet and there's some reason for them not to interact. Do some cool shit where they're like in Sigil, the city of doors, and they are not able to enact violence for fear of being excommunicated or thrown out of the city or X, Y, or Z. So, but that does need to be taken into account. So don't trust that your PCs have signed up to play a game of heroic adventure. Mm-hmm. They are not going to act scared. They're going to act like heroes. Mm-hmm. So your big scary villain coming along, you're never going to watch them go like, oh, I'm scared. Yeah. They didn't roll all these dice to get to the villain and quake in their boots.
Yeah.
So, I think rather than trying to like scare or intimidate your PCs, you want to look for moments of like, I'm trying to think, like have villains done? I don't think villains have ever scared you in either of the home games we've played or stuff like that. But have there been moments where villains like, I don't know, like maybe didn't scare you, but like rattled you or left some pause for like, ooh, we need to think carefully or we need to be more strategic in this moment?
Well, the problem is that I play fighter. I've, for the most part, played fighters who are concerned with their appearance and their like being either legends or brutish or like both of my characters kind of had like a chip on their shoulder in that they want to be seen as like incredibly heroic, strong, legendary. So I'm like, yeah, this is the dumb moment where I don't roll insight or try and learn anything and I just run and attack and like, but I don't know, I think about maybe in the home campaign I wanted to go pit fight somebody because my pride had been hurt. And I remember like you had set up like an underground fighting ring of a death match versus just fisticuffs. And I do remember like you had done a really nice job of giving your like we got a lot of information in like the entrance of who I was about to fight and kind of the like you would use the structure of a bout to kind of give us a moment of like exchanging personality and information that I thought like was really like nice and felt like very truthful. I wasn't attacking because you like, I don't know, the rules of that moment were that you can't. Yeah. So I don't know. I think when you do put those societal like those rule, your PCs will recognize that it would be uncouth to be seen as attacking or like to go it would have been improper for me to attack in that moment, so I didn't. Yeah,
I think I think too, thinking about it more, if you want villains, as the question is, to be scary and unnerving. Scary is a mood that you can set at the table. Yep. I had that home game with you and your friends where you guys went into these caverns.
Jesus Christ. I just remember like Brennan was describing this like crevasse like that had been created by a magical event that like split, like just created this, it's like, I don't know.
The canyon.
Exactly. Yeah. And just, between like some ambient music you had put on and like your a lot of your descriptor words, it was terrifying. It was,
right. And this was like a geographical feature.
Yeah.
All that it was these guys had been in very like temperate forests. It had been mostly like wilderness, and like we like described it, and I'd put some effort into describing the wilderness, but it was very Lord of the Ringsy, Middle Earthy kind of wilderness, going from town through the wilderness to different towns and stuff. And then we got to this place that suddenly the tone shifted, and it was a like Shadow of the Colossus style, like some magical effect has scoured the land as though the finger of God came down, and there is a miles wide chasm scored into the earth as though by some unnatural force.
At least he's using, I think, a lot of the words that he used on that day.
And that's something you can do where that's like an unsettling thing to narrate, partially because there's no way for you guys can't like shit talk a canyon, like there's no way for you to like,
hey, fuck you, canyon. hey, Brennan, I'd like to piss in this canyon. I'd like to show this canyon who's boss.
Fucking, hey, canyon, fucking these nuts. Yeah, there's nothing you can do. Yeah. You can't flash brain to the canyon.
Can't flash brain to the canyon.
Right. So I think that there's an element of like finding those creative ways into narrate. So horror is a mood. Mm-hmm. You can't just have a lich show up or have like a vampire show up and be like, hey, I'm a classic monster, very scary.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to create a feeling of dread or unease, and that has to do with narration and kind of using that poetic description. Mm-hmm. And I think unnerving as well. So that's like the feeling of being unnerving. In terms of scary, where the PCs actually feel like they should run away, right? Or the PCs at least feel trepidatious about their chances. Like you want the PCs to enter a combat knowing there's a high likelihood for them to lose. Mm-hmm. I think that what you can do there is show an element of loss. And also as a DM, I think show that you're not kidding. One of the ways I think that you can best show that you're not kidding as a DM, if you want to show that a villain is scary, cool, you can't do a total party kill, you can't kill all your PCs, kill some of your NPCs.
Yeah.
Have a town or a city that these PCs know and love, and they get back and it's fucking gone. Yeah. It's just smoke and ash. That's a way to set something up where the PCs are losing something they care about and can tell that this person means business. And it is a way, in the same way that in real life, we ponder our own deaths most when we experience death with the people we know and care about. Mm-hmm. And it becomes real suddenly. Yeah. It's the same thing. If your PCs are feeling like, hey, zero consequences, everything's groovy, it's all shenanigans. Yeah. I remember playing in the campaign that we did with Murph and Emily, the other Errol campaign, where they had, up to in our first session, they'd been in this little town, they're having a ball, they're going around, and even some like spooky stuff had happened. There were like goblins in the woods. And they were like joking. It was a bunch of people that had never played D&D before, and they were having a ball and joking around, and I had them go off into the forest a little bit, and they'd met this old witch named Rose, who had been very sweet and motherly to Emily's character, and Emily had like formed a really strong bond with her. And she was like, Rose, I love you. And they left. They came back to town successful, having beat these goblins, and were being glib.
Yeah.
And I think it was John Wolfe's Barbarian. Rosa like went up into a tree and looked and saw Rose hanging from her witch's tree.
Oh my God.
And they had left her in town with the Baron's men. Now, they hadn't sworn to protect her, and they knew the Baron's men were dangerous, but there wasn't like a conspiracy they knew about to kill Rose. Yeah. But it was this weird moment where I watched 6 people who had started playing D&D for the first time 3 hours earlier, who were like kind of joking, and they were like, the characters, like some of them had like silly names. It was like very like, oh, we're playing D&D for the first time. Every face went to stone, and I watched people get the power of this game for the first time and go like, we're going to make them pay for what they did. And that's like, and then the Baron suddenly became this person for them.
Yeah. I don't know. I think when you get people who are inexperienced to play D&D, they are like, oh, this is the one where I can do whatever I want, right? This is where I can like punch the baker and be like, fuck it. So there is something, I don't know, when you teach them that, yes, this is that, and that actions have consequences, and like those consequences aren't like, oh, he took your gold, or your item is gone, or I don't know, when it's like things that people have really engaged with and enjoyed. I don't know. There is like there's that switch where it's like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know another way to put it other than like if you like D&D is a game about gambling. You're rolling with dice, right? You're rolling with dice. It's a game of chance. What are you gambling with? It's not money. You are gambling with stories. And the stakes are characters, locales, moments, adventures. So the things that you stand to lose are actually very meaningful because people love stories. Yeah. So putting something up and having someone lose a character they care about, even if it's only an NPC, suddenly makes the stakes real. Yeah. And someone realizes like, hey man, we're just sitting here at like a coffee table eating chips and rolling dice. But I'm never going to see that character again.
Well, and it's even more, I think, potent than like at harming the PCs themselves, like taking away an NPC. So like, I don't know, that just something that they like. I don't know if the guards came and beat me up, I think I would be like, okay, well then fuck yeah, right? You beat me up today, tomorrow I'm gonna come and kick your ass. Yeah. But if like the guards went and like burned my mom's house down, that's so much more fire. Yes. That's like, I don't know, that is like, just thinking about it right now, I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to go beat the shit out of, like, I don't know, like
it makes you feel something. Or even like the end of episode 2 in season 1 of like, in Fantasy High when Eggfort died and you fucking lost your mind.
Of course, because I don't know. I think there's also a thing where you forget NPCs can die. Like you've been the one looking at your health and like all of these things. So as soon as you get that reminder that like this is a living world and that like things are happening that you aren't, like if you like other people walk through doors when you're not walking through them. It's like I don't know. It is like shaking that up and reminding people that this world is doing stuff without you.
Oh, that's an awesome thing to light on. That's another, actually for our second one for this episode, that's another critical DM tip.
Oh, I like this.
From Lou Wilson. No, for real. It's like, is make your world alive. It, like if the PCs start to get this Final Fantasy feeling of like, I can go out of town, kill 100 monsters and walk back and the baker is still standing next to the shopkeep just talking. Yeah. No. Yeah. If there's 100 monsters in the woods, they eat shit. They're out there, and if the adventurers leave town, the town's doomed. Yeah. Like, it's a living world. When characters leave and come back to a place, the place should have changed, unless for some reason it is able to maintain whatever its status quo in, which is in itself dynamic. How is it able to maintain a status quo?
What is the cost of that?
What is the cost of that, right? So a dynamic world where the PCs, and that doesn't mean that PCs don't have agency and importance. I think the trick is PCs matter and can change the world, but the world's also always changing itself. And if the PCs split their focus or ignore something for the benefit of something else, that matters, and it changes as a result of that.
Woo!
Hell yeah. We're going in today.
We're going in today, guys.
This one's from Salt in Your Coffee. How do you reinvest players that feel lost in the story due to missed hooks or closed out plots? What's the best way to address players feeling like the game is becoming the DM versus the players instead of telling a story together? That's really fun. I love that question. When you were playing, because you started with a one-off for your players.
Yes, just like a sesh. Yeah.
How much were you kind of giving them plot and a hook versus how much were you going like, hey, this is collaborative, we're together? Because I have some thoughts on this that are conflicting.
Okay. Well, I would say, so for, as for my session, which I had like, in my head, I wanted, in talking with Brendan a lot about it, as one does with their teacher, I was like, okay, great. I know what's, like, I wanted to, like, something simple because I'm new, so it was like a caravan guard. That was like the heart of it. But I also thought about what the caravan, what that means, like, to the world, or what's on this caravan, and who wants it, all of those sorts of things. And I think I wanted all those things to be on the table if the PCs were invested in that. But I also wanted it to just be, if they just want like to be a bunch of mercenaries who have a job to do, then so be it. But I think getting back to the question, instead of just talking about that my first session, it was, I I wanted it to be. I gave a lot of room to the PCs to kind of like do their own, like to explore the world, and like to like I didn't have like an NPC there being like, get back to work, or we've got to be somewhere tomorrow. Like it was very much like they knew where they had to be, and I wanted to give them the space to get there, and constantly moving the plot along and having them come across NPCs that would be like, oh, you're working? Great. Like constantly reminding them that they are working and that they have a job to do, but also that like if they want to, they were in a mining town, and they went to the dirtiest bar in the mining town, and one of the PCs was like, and they got a shitty room that had one bed for 3 people, and one of them was like, I want to meditate, and kicked the other 2 out. And so one of them started cleaning this dirty bar, and like, I don't know, they started cleaning, and I rolled for like the reaction of the other people in the bar, and I got like a 19. So I was like, they also start cleaning. And so it just like turned into like this moment of a bunch of like miners and the PCs cleaning this dirty bar. And then the bartender coming out and like pulling out like a bottle of whiskey that he got when he opened the bar, and them all like sharing it. So I don't know. It was like I wanted space for those moments and those collaborative moments, but also never trying to push plot. Because I feel like if I had just been like, hey, we got stuff to do. Hey, there's like a whole caravan. Like we didn't get to the caravan. We like the session, like a 3.5 hour session ended with, and then you begin the whole purpose. But I think it was really important to understand that I think the PCs define the pace of a session.
Hell yeah, Jesus, do they? Yes.
And I think that is how things always feel collaborative. I think if the PCs feel pushed, if the PCs feel like, hey, we got places to go, we got things to do, like I want you to be doing things, that's when the DM becomes more apparent. And I think there's subtle ways to keep PCs on track that don't involve you standing as being as clearly the DM asking to move things forward.
Yeah, I think pace is really hard, and it is more in the hands of the PCs than the DM. It just is. The camera follows the PCs. You don't narrate stuff that PCs don't see. Yep. Or I've done it like once or twice in very insane circumstances. But for the most part, the camera, the focus of the game follows the PC, so they're determining the pace. And if they are enjoying what they're doing, the game's successful.
Yep.
You know, in the same way that like if you get a brand new toy for your kid and they play with the box, that's still a successful gift. You know, like, okay, you didn't like the thing I thought you would like, but
I'm glad you're having fun.
You're having fun. It's working. I would say too that I actually can go either way on this because what this question is basically talking about is like missed hooks, closed out plots, stuff like that, which has to do with that idea of railroading or not. Is your campaign setting a sandbox, or the PCs totally determine what they're going to do, or is there a plot that needs to be followed? Here's the funny thing. There's not one. I don't think there's one right or wrong answer to this because the truth is if you are playing with very new players, it can be cruel to put all of the onus of creativity on them and say, I don't want to railroad you guys, so you do the adventure. And they're like, dude, I don't fucking know. I'm an elven ranger. I'm excited to have like a panther familiar. I don't know what he wants to do. Like, in other words, if you're playing with people that are not really confident in their like creative writing or improv abilities, it is kind to say your old mentor shows up and says there are monsters at the edge of the forest and they go, cool, I want to help my mentor out. That's a really simple, digestible story. I'm excited to tell that lets me do the things I'm excited to do, which is shoot monsters and be a cool badass elven ranger.
All I ever wanted.
Me
and my panther familiar. But I feel 100%. So do you think that like, is that the only situation in which railroading, like that sounds very specific though. So is it like, do you think it carries into other situations, or is it just new PCs?
I think that the biggest high you get to as a PC is where you start to feel like the campaign really is becoming your story, right? It's not, in other words, you are not a character that is being followed by the camera randomly. You're not the focus of this campaign world randomly just because, like, hey, I made a character or we're at the house playing and I'm one of the PCs. But really start to feel like, no, there's a reason, there's a story about this character. I'm growing in some way. Or this quest could only have been about me. Not because I'm like a chosen one necessarily. That's a whole other conversation about whether your PCs should be like destined heroes. But I'll put it this way. I think one of the best, and this I guess would be like the hard DM tip number 3.
Critical
DM tip number 3.
You gotta use the buzzwords.
Use the buzzwords. This is a nat 20 DM tip. Is the sooner the better when you are doing character creation for a game. Talk with your PCs about making characters that have an adventurous motivation within them. In other words, I think that by default, we often make characters that are static. Like, if I make a character that, let's say I make a paladin. I love playing paladins. One of my favorite PC types to play.
He'll never shut up about how much he loves playing paladin.
I am a sucker for a knight that believes in ideals, right? So let's say you take a paladin, right? Cool. I make a paladin. He's a member of a paladin order. He's a member of the Knights of the Sun. And he believes in honor and virtue, and he's from the city of Greystone.
Wow, what an incredible, look at that. That's
cool.
What you get. The guy's 22 years you can make up like that.
Cool. So that's like a character that a lot of people would make as their first paladin character. Cool. Now, that character could feel really fun, and I could even give him a funny name, and he could have a funny quirk. He loves...
Give him a funny name, Brennan.
His name is Bilby Buzzbeard, and he loves pasta. And the problem with Bilby is this. Bilby's he's a lot of fucking work for a DM. Why is he a lot of work? Because he's just fucking standing there.
Yeah.
He's just in Greystone.
Okay, he loves pasta, okay?
He does love
he
pasta.
He probably wants to go get some pasta.
But there's such a difference between loving pasta and seeking out the world's greatest pasta.
Okay, but what if you burn down his pasta? His favorite
pasta? If we start session 1 and his favorite Italian place burns down and he goes, no! And then has to chase down the people who burned it down, that's a great story. I mean, this is a natural DM right here. They burned down his...
There you go.
Wherever you go, to whatever corner or hole you hide in, my sword shall find you.
This is my quest.
There you go.
Incredible. But what I'll say is this. Your job, I think, as a DM during character creation, because that's actually where a lot of your job happens, is to sit down and say, cool, you're a paladin. Can we make you come from a disgraced house and your honor is besmirched and you're adventuring because you have something to live up to? Cool. You're a paladin. Are you a halfling paladin? Great. What does it mean to be smaller than every other warrior? And does that give you something that you need to prove? And to find characters that are already in motion. They're not static. Because being an adventurer is fucking crazy. You're going into dungeons and killing monsters. Close to 100% of people in your fantasy world where monsters exist don't do that. And for good reason. So I think that there is a real good piece of advice in, with your DMing skills, crafting PCs that already have a reason to be doing crazy shit.
I love that.
Hell yeah. Any final thoughts or words as we wrap up here on the inaugural session of Adventuring Academy?
I mean, get out there and do it. I think if you have that, I think I similarly let a lot of the things that maybe hold you back from being a DM of like, will I be able to create an intriguing enough world? Will I know what to do when they say they want to like push over the person that I thought was going to be the most helpful person? I don't know. Even you, I was like halfway through reading the entire dungeon master manual when you were like, you already know enough to go ahead and do it. Go do it.
Go do it, guys.
Go do it.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Adventuring Academy. I'm Brennan Lee Mulligan. It's my friend Lou Wilson.
I'm Lou Wilson.
And we'll hope to see you next time. Later.
Adolphus. What is his name?
Alphonse.
Alphonse.
Bye.
I don't have to know. I was in the first episode. I named him, and now I'm gone.
Hey guys, it's Brennan from CollegeHumor. Click here to subscribe. Click here for more fun stuff. And please keep watching, because if you stop watching, I start to vanish. You get it? I'm not really real. I'm just a thing on your screen. Don't forget me!